From the eerily empty Mary Celeste found in the Atlantic to the flaming Phantom ship, and from the USS Cyclops that seemingly vanished into thin air to the ice-stranded Beechimo floating around the Pacific. These are the most mysterious ghost ships that scare scientists. According to legends, reports of ghost ships are reported around the world. The legends of seafaring ghost ships, or phantom ships, have been passed down through the centuries by sailors, fishermen, and others. Although they are all nautical stories full of mystery, horror, and ambiguity, some of these haunted ships continue to arouse curiosity and terrified expectations among scientists as reports of sightings continue to be made. Today's video features 7 of the world's most enigmatic ghost ships, all of which will give you the shivers. Number 7. The Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872, in perfect shape, with all of its sails still up, the crew's personal possessions intact, and a cargo hold of over 1,500 alcohol barrels unbroken. This is probably the most famous real-life ghost ship story. The lifeboat, the captain's logbook, and most crucially, the entire crew were the only items gone. Because pirate attacks could not be blamed for the occurrence, rumors of crew revolt, waterspout killing, and poisoned food consumption leading to madness arose. However, the most plausible theory is that the crew was forced to abandon the ship and the lifeboat due to a storm or some other technical fault and died later at sea. Apart from them, the mystery of this haunted ship is surrounded by ghosts, sea monsters, and ideas of alien abduction. What do you think happened to the ship's crew? Let us know in the comments. Number 6. The Phantom ship of Charlottetown Harbor. Sightings of the ghost ship have been reported in the Northumberland Straits since 1786 and continue to this day. People who have seen it describe it as a schooner with 3 or 4 masts and white sails enveloped in flames. The ship is most frequently spotted between September and November, just before a northeast wind. After discovering the smoking ship in Charlottetown Harbor in 1900, a group of seamen took a rowboat out to rescue the crew, but it vanished. Some scientific explanations for the Phantom ship have been presented throughout the years, showing the crescent moon setting as flames on the horizon. In 2014, Canada Post issued a stamp depicting the Phantom ship. The song Tales of the Phantom Ship by PEI singer-songwriter Lenny Gallant has made the story popular. Have you ever heard the song? You should check it out. Number 5. Witchcraft. Witchcraft, a cabin cruiser with Captain Dan Burrack and his friend Father Patrick Horgan, set out from Miami on December 22, 1967. The two gentlemen boarded the 23-foot luxury yacht to take in this spectacular vista of Miami's holiday lights. The Coast Guard received a contact from the skipper just 1 mile offshore, indicating that his ship had collided with something, but that there was no significant damage. The Coast Guard promptly dispatched assistance to be hauled to the shore, arriving in as little as 19 minutes, but to no use. There were no traces of any ship being stranded or even present in the area, indicating the ship's previous location. The fact that this cruiser was nearly unsinkable, not to mention the numerous life-saving devices on board, such as life jackets, lifeboats, flares, and distress signal systems, is what makes this story so remarkable. What do you think happened to the cabin cruiser? Witchcraft, perhaps? Number 4. U.S.S. Cyclops. The loss of life on board one of the Navy's largest fuel ships, the USS Cyclops, is still the largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history. This enormous ship set sail from Brazil to Baltimore in March 1918, carrying 10,800 tons of manganese ore and a crew of roughly 309 people. The ship's first and only transmission, which was sent on a somewhat decent day, showed no problems. The ship, however, was never seen or heard from again. A thorough search of the region was conducted, but nothing was discovered. There have never been any remains of the ship or any of the crewmen that were on board. The USS Cyclops' captain never issued a distress signal, and no one on board responded to radio requests from other ships in the area. The Navy investigators were likewise unable to determine a definitive cause for the ship's disappearance, despite a variety of ideas positing numerous causes. Do you know what happened to this ship? Let us know in the comments. Number 3. The SS Bachyimo. The SS Beechimo was a cargo ship that became stranded in ice off the coast of Vancouver, British Columbia in 1931. The crew abandoned the ship and sought refuge in a nearby town, assuming that once the ice melted, they could return to the ship. The ship, however, had broken free of the ice and was drifting freely in the ocean when they returned 2 days later. They were unable to board due to a storm and eventually lost sight of the ship entirely. They assumed it had sunk, but a local hunter told them later that week that he had seen it floating 45 miles distant. The crew located the ship, but it was determined that it was too damaged to sail. They recovered part of the ship's cargo before abandoning it for good. Sailors reported seeing the Bachyimo floating around the Arctic for the following 23 years. It was last seen in 1969, but no one knows for sure if it sank or if it's still floating about in the far north. Weird how the ship broke free, right? Number 2. The SS Orang Melan. Vessels sailing through the busy shipping route in the Strait of Malacca near Indonesia allegedly reported hearing a crackling, panicked voice across their communications channels in May 1947. Quote, "All officers, including captain, dead," the voice said. "Lying in chart room and on a bridge. Probably whole crew dead. I die." The SS Orang Melan cargo ship would go down in history with those words. For decades, rumors have spread that the crew was discovered dead after the distress call with no apparent explanation. Worse, their expressions were claimed to be frozen in terror, anguish, or a mix of the two. The Medan wouldn't have been the first ship to meet an unfathomable end. The Medan is unique in that no one knows what happened to its crew or if it was actually launched at all. The Medan was traveling through the Malacca Strait with a crew of 23, including a skipper and a handful of Indonesian employees. Details about the cargo it was carrying and where it was headed do not appear to have survived any accounts. In any case, it was never completed. The abandoned ship caught fire and detonated before further inspection could be conducted. It's possible that overexposure to nitroglycerin, which it was illegally transporting, was the cause. The account of paranormal activity and/or alien invasion is the subject of the other mystery. Is the Medan a myth that has been passed down through the generations, or a ship that sailed into treacherous waters? Number 1. The Liubov Orlova. The Liubov Orlova was designed to have a dazzling feature on the ocean waves, bearing the name of a famous actress and sailing to some of the world's most beautiful locations. Instead, the liner met a horrible end, and its final resting place remains a mystery. The Liubov Orlova was built in 1976 as an ice-strengthened cruise ship that could be utilized on Antarctic cruises. After her initial launch, she underwent many upgrades, including one in 1999 and another 3 years later. The Liubov Orlova became stranded in Antarctica in 2006 and had to be pulled to safety. The ship was confiscated 4 years later in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, due to £200,000 in debts and the fact that some of the crew had not been paid in more than 5 months. The massive ship sat in the dock for 2 years until it was finally taken out of service and purchased so that it could be broken up and its parts sold. The ship's journey from its Canadian port to its new home in the Dominican Republic was slowed by complications, and it became little more than a floating wreck. The ailing boat was towed by a tugboat, the Charlene Hunt, but the rope connecting the two vessels snapped barely 1 day into the journey. The crew of the Charlene Hunt desperately sought to reunite the two boats despite the tremendous storms, but the MV Liubov Orlova continued to drift away from the tiny tug. However, the big liner was now posing a threat to oil and gas drilling off the coast of Canada and had to be brought under control to avoid calamity. The Atlantic Hawk, a Transport Canada-owned offshore supply ship, was able to regain control of the Liubov Orlova and bring her away from danger. She was let go after she entered international waters, but she remained the responsibility of her owners. The previous cruise ship was almost completely bereft of personnel and guests. A new kind of passenger had taken up residence aboard the massive ship, which had previously been able to accommodate 100 passengers at a time, while it wandered aimlessly through the world's waters with no guidance or steering. The following year, a wreck washed up on the Californian shore, which many assumed was the Liubov Orlova, although specialists have since debunked this theory. There have also been multiple reports of the warship being near British shores. The MV Liubov Orlova was first discovered 1,300 nautical miles off the coast of Ireland in 2013, and a warning was given to smaller ships later that year. An emergency signal from the boat was recorded 700 miles off the coast of Kerry in March of that year. However, it was still classified as international waters. The Liubov Orlova hasn't been seen in years, and experts believe she and her grisly crew of cannibals are now at the bottom of the ocean. On the other hand, the missing ship has left behind years of financial suffering for both her owners and crew. Even after being virtually stranded on the MV Liubov Orlova while she was parked in St. John's, many of the men and women who worked aboard have never been paid. And if you enjoyed this video, we have another one like it of the most mysterious places scientists still can't explain right here that I'm sure you'll enjoy.